Welcome to the Bonita Center for the Arts. Before we present our program, please take out your electronic devices and turn off the sound effects or ringtone. For comfort and enjoyment of the people sitting right behind you, please refrain from recording the event with your handheld electronic devices. For the safety of the performers, flash photography is not permitted. Food and drink may be enjoyed outside, but not inside the theater. If you enjoy our presentation, show our performers respect and your appreciation with applause. Please see our house manager in the lobby if you have any concerns or questions. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If I can have your attention, please, I need to make a quick announcement. My name is Jordan England, and I directed tonight's play. The circumstances surrounding our productions are a bit unusual. You see, I was very flattered when James Paul Eichen, the writer of Murders in the Air, as you probably noticed on your program, air is spelled H-E-I-R, murders in the air, get it? Well, yes. Anyway, as I was saying, I was very flattered to be a part of Mr. Eichen's play's premiere production. Actually, it was a work in progress. He made changes or rewrites throughout the entire rehearsal period. While it was very exciting to be a part of a brand new work, to tell you the truth, it put quite a strain on me. The playwright and the cast.
You got that right.
Shut up, Bailey! Actors should be on scene on her until the curtain opens! Sorry about that. The thing is, the cast and I are feeling a little nervous about tonight's show because, well, you see, the play, it's not quite finished yet. Oh, but don't worry, we're going to go on. The show must go on, as somebody once said. I don't know who said it, but I'd love to get my hands around their neck. As I was saying, the play, it isn't quite finished yet. It's a murder mystery, you see. So most of the characters have great motives to kill, well, you'll see who. The thing is, Mr. Eichen couldn't make up his mind which character he wanted to be the killer. He wrote several different endings in which various suspects were proven to be the murderer. We performed them all for him, and he still couldn't decide. As it got closer and closer to opening night, the tension in the air, that's A-I-R, grew so thick you could cut it with a knife. It got so bad, Mr. Eichen had what I'm sure will prove to be a temporary breakdown. The reason he's not here with us tonight is because he is currently in a nice place with soft walls and lots of padding, and some people have all the luck. Oh. But the cast and crew and I are here, and we are determined to put on a great show for you tonight, even if it kills us. Now this brings me to my main reasoning of being up here, to announce that you guys are going to have to help us. If you look in your program, you see we've inserted a loose slip of paper, bless you, a ballot of some sorts. As you watch the first act, you'll notice which characters have motives to kill, someone who will indeed be dead by the time the act ends. Now, during intermission, we'll need you to check on your ballot which character you think is the murderer. Give your ballot to one of the ushers, and for the second act, we will perform the scene that Mr. Eichen wrote that has the character majority of you guys chose as the killer. At least that's what we hope will happen. It got a little confusing during rehearsals.
Oh, it's a wonder we didn't kill the playwright.
Quiet! Well, we might as well get started. I saved myself a seat right there in the middle where I can follow along in my script and help out if things get a little shaky. Which they won't, but just in case. Are you ready, cast?
As ready as we're gonna be.
Oh, great. Let's get started then. Places, lights!
Nancy, please! You know Mr. Stark was resting just through that doorway. You mustn't startle him.
I'm sorry, Miss Withers, but you startled me.
My apologies, but I dare say a slight scare will do you no harm. However, sudden shock to a man in his 90s in Mr. Starkweather's medical condition could prove fatal. Remember that, girl.
Yes, ma'am. I guess this terrible storm has made me a little edgy.
Yes, it is a frightful evening. I presume all the guests have been shown to the rooms?
Yes, Miss Withers. Well, all but Mr. Starkweather's grandson, Mr. Simon III. It's a long drive from his college in the storm, you know.
I hope we start without him. It's already past Mr. Starkweather's bedtime, and he must have his sleep.
I assure you, Miss Withers, the room is spotlessly clean.
I certainly hope so. Mr. Starkweather's manic condition can make the merest smoke dust potentially lethal.
I served as Mr. Starkweather's housekeeper for many years before you came here, Miss Withers. I don't need you to tell me how to do my job. You brought the coffee?
It's right here on the table, Mrs. Trent.
Then go back into the kitchen and help Minerva with the rest of the refreshment.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Starkweather gave me specific instructions to have everyone present in the drawing room at 8 o'clock sharp. I'll ask Benson Hurst to fetch the guests from their rooms.
Mr. Starkweather will be ready. I'm coming, Mr. Starkweather.
Done got all the cars parked in the garages like you told me.
As I told you. Why do I waste my breath? You're dripping water all over the foyer. Why did you enter through the front door, Rufus? I have told you 1,000,000 times that servants never enter through the front door.
I reckon I forgot, Mr. Bensonhurst. Besides, it's raining out there.
I am aware of that, and now it would appear it has been raining in here, thanks to you.
You're welcome.
Go back out the way you came and maneuver yourself around to the back door. Do you think you can manage that?
Well, I don't know, but I suppose I'm gonna find out.
When the final guest, young Master Simon, arrives, I'll summon you so you can park his car for him.
Oh, good. While I'm waiting, I'll sit by the fire before I grow gills.
Don't be impertinent.
How can I be if I don't know what it means?
Just do as you're told. Go to the kitchen and wait there until I call for you. Not that way. Have you forgotten already that I told you to go round to the back door?
No, but I was hoping you had.
That man is an idiot.
I heard that.
Where would you like me to put this one, Minerva?
Over there. Careful with it.
Yes, ma'am. I think everything's ready.
You think wrong. Place the cups on the saucer so all we have to do is pour the coffee.
Yes, ma'am.
The others are coming down now. Miss Van Zandt has informed me that Mr. Starkweather wishes the staff to be present as well.
He wants the servants here?
Precisely, even Rufus. Had I been informed of that information earlier, I would have ordered him to take a bath. He has been out in the rain parking cars, so perhaps that'll help.
If you ask me, Noah's flood wouldn't help.
Be that as it may, I shall summon him and Mrs. Trent.
Why would Mr. Starkweather want the servants to be here?
Oh, I'll just pull out my crystal ball and let you know. Do you remember what I told you when you came to work here?
Yes, ma'am. Do as you're told and don't ask questions.
Exactly. Stick to that.
I will, Minerva.
Oh, dear, I never do know what to wear to special occasions. I suppose Uncle Simon's inviting us here is a special occasion. Isn't it, Jordan?
I suppose so. Especially consider that most of the time, he treats us all like lepers.
You think Uncle Simon treats us like jungle cats?
No, not leopards, mother. Lepers. Forget it. And don't worry, mother, you look fine.
Oh, thank you, son.
Tell you one thing, you should never inherit this mausoleum. First thing you do is call up the Addams family and let them know it's on the market.
Counting chickens, are we?
Minerva, we did see you and your attractive young helper there.
Nancy is a nice girl, and I mean for her to stay that way.
I'm sure I don't know what you mean.
I doubt that.
I don't understand.
I believe that. Miss Fiona, why don't you take a seat and I'll bring you a cup of coffee.
Coffee? Oh, that sounds nice. It's a little damp in here.
Oh, that's because there's a lot of damp out there. How do you take your coffee?
Mother prefers hers black. I like mine sweet. I'll flavor it myself.
Oh, whatever.
Oh, what lovely hors d'oeuvres! Oh, these are delicious.
Glad you like them.
You're looking very pretty tonight, Nancy.
Thank you, sir.
Sir? That makes me feel as old as Grand Uncle Simon. Call me Jordan.
She will call you Mr. Starkweather, like a proper maid should. If anyone calls you by any other name, it'll be me. And you don't want to know which one I'm thinking.
Minerva! Oh, you never change.
Neither do you. More's the pity. Now take a seat next to your mother.
Yes, Drill Sergeant.
My goodness, Kathy. I don't see how y'all can stand living out here in the boonies away from fine restaurants, movies, and shopping centers. Why, I get so depressed, I just sit down and weep.
It's not that bad, Paula. I stay here during the week and go to my apartment in town most weekends.
I'm so relieved to hear that.
I worked for a large corporation before Mr. Starkweather hired me to be his personal secretary, and believe me, this position is much nicer.
Well, look what we have here. 2 rays of sunshine to dispel the gloom. You look beautiful, ladies.
I swear, Cousin Jordan, you are a rogue and a charmer.
Well, I do my best. Won't you join us?
Take a seat over there. You'll be safer.
Thank you, Minerva.
We'll bring you a cup of coffee.
I take mine black.
Low mine down with lots of cream and sugar. I must admit, I have an enormous sweet tooth.
Maybe that's what caused that corn syrup accent.
And how are you this evening, Cousin Fiona?
What?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you, dear.
That's just peachy. I swear, I don't know why we don't get to see more of one another. Seems like the only time we get together is for somebody's funeral.
Well, aren't all funerals for some body?
Shame on you. Don't be morbid, Cousin Jordan. I'm glad this weekend's an exception to the rule. For once, no one's dead.
So far, anyway.
Oh! That's okay, honey. I don't think you spilled any.
What did you mean by that remark, Jordan?
Oh, nothing. It's just that when you called to tell us that Great Uncle Simon wanted Mother and me to come Starkweather Mansion for the weekend, at first I assumed you're going to say he had passed on.
You wish. I started to pack my new black dress.
It was a natural assumption. I mean, he is up in years and in bad health. I was relieved to find out the old boy was still with us, of course.
Yeah, right.
Kathy, darling, I bet you know why Great Uncle Simon called us this frightful evening. Come on, tell.
Miss Van Zandt will go into the particulars, but I believe that Mr. Starkweather wishes to discuss his will.
Really?
I would appreciate it if you didn't draw on the hors d'oeuvres.
You misjudged me, Minerva. I was just surprised, that's all.
Where's Cousin Simon? Shouldn't he be here too?
When I contacted him, he said he could make it. Apparently, he's going to be late. If he's tried to contact here tonight, he couldn't get through. The phone lines are down.
Well, if we're going to talk about the will, he should be here too. After all, he is Great Uncle Simon's only grandchild.
Yeah, and he'll probably get everything.
Excuse me. I hate to interrupt, really. Folks, I suggested to Mr. Eichen that these family relations might be a bit confusing. He agreed and was working on a scene that explained it all when he snapped like a rubber band. So I'll just explain them to you. I think there's a family tree in your program as well. Here's how it goes. Mr. Simon Starkweather, the old billionaire, married late in life and produced one son, Simon Jr. Simon Jr., in return, married and produced one heir, Simon III, the college student who is late for the gathering. The original Mrs. Starkweather, Simon II, and his wife are now deceased. Old Simon's eldest brother, Paul, had a daughter, Bella, who married Lucian Thompson, an Atlanta businessman, and they had a daughter, Paula. Paul, his wife, Bella, and Lucian are now deceased. Old Simon's younger brother, John, married and produced Ezra, who married Fiona, and they had Jordan. This is Jordan, but you know that already. Anyway, John, his wife, and Ezra are now deceased. I realize that's a lot of dead people, but if they had been included in the play, it would have looked like a marching band had wandered into the living room. And believe me, it was hard enough getting everyone to move around as it was. At any rate, Uncle Simon is Fiona's uncle by marriage, and Jordan, Paula, and Simon's great-uncle, which makes Jordan, Paula, and young Simon cousins, second or third cousins. I'm not too sure how that works. Anyway, hope that clears things up for you guys.
We don't have a clue as to where we are.
And I'm not really sure who I'm, supposed to be anymore, you know?
All right, sorry about that. Let's start with Joseph and Veronica's entrance.
How's it going?
Oh, my. Luke. Hey, Luke.
Luke! Ah!
Give them their entrance cue.
Well, what is it?
Oh, my. He'll probably get everything.
Who will?
Oh, my. Your cousin, Simon.
Oh. Okay, yeah, I got you, Yeah, and he'll probably get everything.
I'm very pleased with your investigation, Mr. Davis. I'll be glad to recommend you to my other clients.
Just doing my job, Miss Van Zandt.
Good evening, everyone.
I know we haven't met yet, but I've got a pretty good idea who you all are. Mrs. Starkweather and his son Jordan, right?
That's right, Mr.
Davis. Call me Mike.
From what Miss Van Zandt just said, I assume you must be some sort of investigator?
You got it, pal. The private kind.
I see.
Who is this nice young man, dear?
He's a detective, Mother.
A detective? How exciting. Do you know Sherlock Holmes?
Oh, no, ma'am. He's way out of my league.
Oh.
I do know who you two ladies must be, though.
If you're a private investigator, I'd be surprised if you didn't.
That accent settles it. You're Paula Thompson.
You're 100% correct. I can't deny I'm from the Deep South.
If you came from any deeper south, you live in Central America.
So that leaves you to be Kathy Collins. It's nice to finally meet you in person.
Me too, Mike. Mike and I have corresponded for some time now by mail and fax on Mr. Starkweather's behalf.
Is the seat taken? No? I'll park it here. Excuse me.
And I expect you to remain unobtrusive.
I sure will, as soon as I find a dictionary and look it up.
Just sit over there by the fire and keep quiet.
By the fire? Glad to. My backside is still kind of soggy.
Keep an eye on him.
I shall do my best.
If all is in readiness, Miss Van Zandt, I shall inform Mr. Starkweather.
Yes, thank you, Bensonhurst. There's coffee if anybody else wants some.
I could use some Minerva.
How do you take it?
In a cup.
Keep still!
Black, please.
Miss Van Zandt, I understand Great Uncle Simon called us to talk about his will.
That is correct. Oh, frankly, I did not think it was a good idea. Mr. Starkweather's health is precarious at best, and he does not need the excitement. I advised him to communicate with you all by mail, but he insisted on summoning you all here to Starkweather Mansion. I only hope he doesn't live to regret that decision.
Miss Withers is bringing Mr. Starkweather in to join us. And Miss Van Zandt, wouldn't you be a bit more comfortable sitting over at the table?
Can I move now?
Here you are, Mr. Starkweather.
Go.
I'll be right here if you need me.
To think I was once surrounded by presidents and kings. Can my world have shrunk to this? A handful of relatives and a meager staff of hired help. Simon! Where's my grandson?
We presume he's on his way, Mr. Starkweather.
Can't wait for him. Not enough time anymore.
Good evening, Great Uncle Simon. You're looking well.
Are you blind, boy? Or just a habitual liar?
I was only making pleasantries, Uncle.
Save your breath. You've always been a smooth talker, Jordan. But that doesn't cut any ice with me. You're nothing but a greedy opportunist, boy. I ought to know. I was one myself at your age.
Well, then I guess it runs in the family.
You have a point. Well, Fiona, you look the same.
Oh, I do? Why, thank you, Uncle Simon.
It wasn't necessarily meant as a compliment.
Great Uncle Simon, you're awful.
At my age, and with my money, I can afford to say what I think. And I do. And how is my little Georgia Peach?
Lil' me? Oh, I'm just peachy, Uncle.
I might puke. Mr. Starkweather, would you care for some coffee?
He mustn't have any. The caffeine will keep him awake and could affect his blood pressure. Sometimes medications cause it to run a little high.
Apparently, I won't be having any Minerva. You heard my keeper.
Oh, yes, sir.
Everybody aspires to live to a ripe old age, and for what? To be kept alive by medicines and machines, to be prevented from enjoying so much of life's little pleasures, like a cup of coffee.
You mustn't excite yourself, Mr. Starkweather.
See, I'm not even allowed to feel any strong emotions.
That's a bummer.
You put it very succinctly, Rufus. Old age is a bummer. I could have searched my vocabulary extensively and never come up with such an apt description. Bummer!
Glad you like it.
According to my doctors, I won't have to remain a prisoner in this weak-old body for much longer. There is only one thing I hate to leave behind. My money.
Well, you know what they say, Uncle. You can't take it with you.
Yes, that's what they say. So several years ago, I Lois here draw up my will. I suppose you'd like to know how I provided for you, my heirs.
I, for one, must admit, I'm just a teensy bit curious.
A teensy bit, eh?
I was afraid something like this would happen. Here, Mr. Starkweather, breathe deeply. See what you've done!
Me? I didn't...
Should somebody call an ambulance?
We can't. The phones are dead.
It's all right. He just lost his breath. He just needs to be pure oxygen for a few moments.
Tell them.
Very well. This is the will that Mr. Starkweather was referring to. As you all know, he has been a phenomenally successful businessman for many years.
I'll say. He's been on the cover of Forbes magazine at least a dozen times.
I never read it.
He has the distinction of becoming one of the world's first billionaires.
But 20 years ago, I begged dear Ezra, oh, bless his soul, to ask his Uncle Simon to advise him on business investments, but he was too proud.
Yeah, Dad had his pride. Lots of pride and very little money.
If I may continue, Mr. Starkweather's fortune is now worth in the neighborhood of $50 billion.
If I'd known that, I'd ask for a raise.
I won't go into the details of the will, but it essentially bequeaths $1 million to each of his household staff. That is, Mrs. Trent, his housekeeper, Mr. Bensonhurst, his butler, Nancy Pollard, his maid, Miss Withers, his nurse, Minerva Walker, his cook, and Rufus Jones, his handyman.
Forget the raise.
Oh, Mr. Starkweather, I had no idea The will goes on to state that the remainder of his fortune is to be divided equally among his surviving relatives. It is his great-grandson, Simon III, his niece, Fiona Starkweather, and her son, Jordan, who share 1/3, and his great-niece, Paula Thompson.
Oh, isn't that nice?
I always knew you'd do right by us, Uncle.
I know you got mad when Mama married a Southern boy, Great Uncle Simon, but you two must have agreed on one thing. Blood is thicker than water.
I bet Miss Withers could tell you if it
Now
is.
that I've informed you of the will's contents, I have another announcement to make. As of tomorrow, this will becomes invalid.
Whoa, what does invalid mean?
It means no good!
I got a brother that's invalid.
Miss Van Zandt means we're not going to get any of the money, you fool!
Guess I won't be buying that big screen TV I was thinking about after all.
Sit, Lois.
Why'd you decide to disinherit us, Uncle?
Found a better use of my money, that's why. Oh, I didn't cut you out entirely. All of you in the new will receive $50,000 each.
50,000? Out of 50 billion?
Lois advised me it'd be a good idea to leave you a little something. That way you'd be less likely to be able to contest my new will.
New will?
Yes. That's why Kathy's here at Starkweather Mansion this weekend to type it up nice and legal for my signature. Mr. Davis, as a disinterested party, can witness the signing. Lois will file it at the courthouse come Monday.
Mr. Davis said he's a detective. What did you hire him to do?
Mr. Starkweather hired me to conduct an investigation on the quiet. For the last 6 months, I've flown to a dozen or more foreign countries, checking out some of the world's most brilliant scientists. Some well-known, others who prefer to keep their experiments hush-hush. Oh, thank you. I succeeded in finding one in Belgium. Let's call him Dr. X. Who agreed to help Mr. Starkweather do what he desires, which is to clone himself.
I don't understand.
Good. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Those blood and skin samples you had me prepare, the ones that would be examined by specialists?
They were sent to specialists with us. Specialists in DNA.
I thought you were trying to find a cure.
I was. Not a cure for my various ailments, but a cure for dying. And I did find it.
Cloning?
Precisely. Through the power of modern science, I shall live forever.
It's not right!
It's neither here nor there.
Oh.
Let the moralists and politicians debate that question for decades to come. In the meantime, Dr. X, as Davis named him, will be creating a brand new me. Sit down with us. A lot of you seem displeased. Not, I suspect, because of the moral question, but because of your change in fortune. Too bad. Cloning is very expensive, especially since the process I require must be done in absolute secrecy. But I will still have a sizable fortune left for the new me to inherit. No doubt I'll be the first person on Earth to be my own heir. Blood pressure.
Yes, Mr. Starkweather. If you'll excuse us, I need to take Mr. Starkweather's blood pressure.
Why can't you take it right here?
Mr. Starkweather's arms are too frail for me to get a reading from them. This is an outsized cuff meant to go on a patient's thigh. He can send the pressure from the cuff better there. Mr. Starkweather's had enough excitement for one evening. I shall put him to bed.
Well, I suppose that concludes our meeting. That is, unless anyone has any questions.
I do. What the heck was that all about?
It's simple, Rufus. Great Uncle Simon, your boss, was going to leave us all a fortune. But he changed his mind. Instead, he's decided to clone himself.
What does clone mean?
It means to take some cells from a person's body and create a duplicate of the original.
They can do that? That's great. When the old Mr. Starkweather passes away, maybe I can get a job working for the new Mr. Starkweather.
The new Mr. Starkweather would have been born and grown up. It goes against the laws of nature. How?
It has all been arranged. Once Dr. X creates the new life, the cells will be implanted in a host mother who will carry the child to term.
Host mother, who? Me?
Why not? I'm young and healthy. I'll make a good mother for little Simon.
How could you ever consider being a part of this travesty?
I'll be well compensated. Besides, have you ever met anyone to give birth to a baby billionaire?
Uncle Simon is giving his money to a baby?
In a manner of speaking, yes. The new will places Mr. Starkweather's fortune in a trust fund, which I will administer. After that, money will be released in order to pay Dr. X and his staff for performing the procedure, and ample funds will be available in order to provide for Kathy's needs in the child's upbringing and education. After the child is fully grown and properly trained in high finance, the fortune will be turned over to him.
Oh.
The kid will look, think, and act like Simon Starkweather. He could conceivably parlay those billions into trillions by the time he's an old man.
But for what purpose? To leave it to another clone and another and another? Where will it end? When there's another Simon Starkweather with enough money and power to rule the world?
Well, we didn't discuss it, but you might as well be right.
How could you condone such a madness?
Oh, I can see why she would. Miss Van Zandt and the Collins girl will live like billionaires themselves off of Mr. Starkweather's money. Money that should have gone to us and his family. I guess you'll get rich too, since you're part of this scheme.
No, not me. I did the job I was paid to do. My part's over. I'll take my very generous check and go home. Frankly, I don't care if the boss's science fiction experiment works or not.
You should be ashamed! You should all be ashamed!
Ladies, I do believe you have made your feelings quite clear. If you and the other servants will join me in the kitchen, I wish to speak with all of you. We'll clear after you've finished. I do trust you'll ring if you require anything else.
It might be kind of nice hearing the pitter-patter of little feet around the house.
Shut up, Rufus!
Kathy and I will retire to my room. You might as well start typing up the new will tonight. I'll show you how to put everything into proper legal terms.
Sure, Lois. The sooner it's signed and finished, the better. Hey, wait a minute. How come nobody asked if I wanted to carry the baby? I could do it just as well as she can.
You do realize that you're Mr. Starkweather's blood kin, right? It wouldn't be proper.
I guess it would be kind of tacky.
Proper? You're about to conduct an experiment that makes Frankenstein look like an amateur. And you're worried about being proper?
Cool down, kid, before you bust a blood vessel. Mr. Starkweather has made up his mind. And I get the feeling, whatever the old man wants, he gets.
Succinctly put, Mr. Davis. Ugh. Kathy?
Well, I'll go upstairs and pack. After I witness the signing of the new will tomorrow, I won't have any reason to hang around. Good night.
We were robbed!
We were?
Yes, Mother. Great Uncle Simon dangled a fortune in front of our noses, and then he snatched it away.
That was mean.
Mean? The man is a monster. Didn't you see the evil glint in his eye? He enjoyed pulling the rug out from under our feet.
At least he's leaving us $50,000.
To him, it's no more than tossing a dime to a beggar, and he's just doing it to keep breaking the new will. You heard him.
Yeah.
I wish you were dead. I wish the old goat just dropped dead tonight!
It would serve him right.
Well, if Uncle Simon did die tonight, then we'd all get our money, wouldn't we, my dears? Would anyone care for a game of bridge?
Penny for your thoughts. That's all I can afford to pay now.
Mr. Starkweather,
It's Jordan, remember? At least when Minerva, the dragon lady, isn't around.
I thought everyone had gone to bed.
I was going to turn in, but I got an urge for a midnight snack.
I'll fix you something.
Never mind. What are you doing up?
Miss Trent sent me in here to make sure the fire screen was properly closed, so no sparks pop out into the rug.
And burn Starkweather Mansion to the ground? Maybe that wouldn't be such a bad idea.
You shouldn't talk like that. You know Mr. Starkweather's an invalid. How could he—
You read my mind.
Jordan,
Guy'd call me my first name.
you mustn't even suggest such a thing. It's wicked.
Why should that surprise you? Everyone knows I'm the black sheep of the family. If it happened tonight, you would have $1 million. And I would have billions. Think of the good times we could have together.
Don't.
It's a tempting thought, admit it.
It's not. It's a horrible idea.
Which part? Getting the money or you and me together?
The part about the money.
What about us?
Nancy! Thought you were going to help me with the dishes.
I'm just checking the French doors, Minerva, to make sure they're locked.
I see. And what are you doing here?
I came down for a snack when I saw Nancy. I stopped for a little chat.
That appetite of yours is going to get you in trouble one of these days.
Minerva, what are you doing with that knife?
Oh, this?
Yeah, that.
Chopping onions.
At midnight?
I can't stand to have anyone see me cry. I thought I heard someone in here and I came to check. If you're hungry, come with me. I'll find you something.
Yes, Minerva. Anything you say, Minerva.
Finish checking and then come give me a hand.
Yes, ma'am.
Come on, come on, come on.
Rufus, I thought I heard someone come in.
It was just me.
So I see. Good grief, man. What are you doing with that axe?
It's like this. I remember chopping wood for the fire this afternoon before it started raining, but I forgot to put the axe back in the shed. I've been dismembering things a lot lately. Anyway, where it come to me where I left it, I figured I better bring it inside and dry it off, so it don't rust.
That's fine. But why bring it into the living room? Besides, how many times do I have to tell you to use the back door?
As many as you want. I ain't counting.
I swear, Rufus, you will be the death of me yet. Well, go on into the kitchen and have Mrs. Trent give you a towel.
Why? I ain't wet. It quit raining.
I know that, to dry the axe.
Oh, right.
The back door. If that man had any brain, he would be dangerous.
I heard that.
Penny for your thoughts.
Oh, Jordan, I was just getting a breath of fresh air. What are you doing up this late?
Just hungry. Want a cookie?
No, thanks.
So you Miss Van Zandt finished the new will?
Yes, it's all ready for Mr. Starkweather's signature. I see you've calmed down. I wouldn't blame you if you hated me.
Why should I hate you? I'd make the same deal if I were in your shoes.
I'm sure you would, Jordan.
Minerva's right. Being the mother of little Simon will be the next best thing to owning the billions yourself. Aren't you forgetting something, though?
What?
The little tyke will need a dad, too. Someone to guide him and mold him into a perfect replica of Great Uncle Simon. A heartless money-making machine.
You think so?
I know so. And who would be a better father figure than I? You're a very attractive woman, Kathy. We can mix business with pleasure.
Get your crummy hands off me!
What?
You're getting cookie crumbs on my blouse. And by the way, forget it. If I decide little Simon needs a father after he's born, I'll pick a suitable husband then. I don't know who he'll be, but it won't be a slimy piece of shit like you, Jordan!
I could kill you, you bitch.
Oh! I wouldn't try it! Not with an detective in the house! Oh!
1, 2, 3, 4. What on? Aren't you finished in here yet?
I need to make everything all right.
Well, hurry up, girl. Another wants you in the kitchen.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't dawdle. Oh! Someone left the French door open. Oh, close it then. Miss Thompson.
Miss Trent,
No.
you gave me a fright.
No. What on earth are you doing roaming around in the middle of the house with a gun in your hand? I'm surprised you didn't shoot me.
Don't worry, I know how to handle a gun. I couldn't sleep, so I thought I'd clean it. Yeah, I was going to the kitchen to look for some oil.
Well, I doubt you'll find what you need in there unless you want to rub it with, I don't know, Crisco! Do you often carry that thing around with you?
I take it everywhere I go. Daddy taught me to be a crack shot when I was 10. Girl can't be too careful.
Well, I don't think you have anything to worry about out here at Starkweather Mansion. It's miles from the nearest town. No one ever comes out this way.
You never had a burglary? Or a prowler?
No.
You know, with Grand Uncle Simon so sick and all, it's a wonder somebody hasn't tried to come in and steal something. You know, with his bedroom being on the ground floor, anybody could just break in through those French doors and do who knows what.
Well, I don't think that would happen.
Let's see if I remember correctly. That room used to be a library, and the one beyond it was a parlor. Am I correct?
That's correct. When Mr. Starkweather became too ill to go up and down the stairs, the library was converted into a bedroom, and Withers took the parlor.
So they're the only ones who sleep downstairs?
Yes. The servants' quarters are in the attic under the eaves. We have our own staircase that leads to the kitchen. Why do you ask?
Oh, I was just curious.
Excuse me.
No.
I thought that little section of dialogue was a bit awkward and suggested to Mr. Eichen that we cut it, but he felt you needed to get a layout of the house.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Ka-kang!
He said, "What do you want me to do? Put a blueprint of Starkweather Mansion in the program?" Which I thought was kind of rude. So I left it in. But it's a bad piece of writing, and I want to let you know that I tried to fix it.
It's a bad piece of writing. I try to fix it.
Carry on.
Watch this.
Okay, yeah.
I want you to know that if you do that again, you're going to have to bring that script up here on this stage and play Miss Trent yourself.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, man.
Yes! But where were we?
No, crap. Where were we? Oh, so you're curious about the layout of the house, are you?
Oh, yeah, I was just curious.
You know what they say? Curiosity killed the cat.
Yes, well, if you'll excuse me.
No, why? Oh. Wouldn't it be ironic if someone did break in tonight? Of all nights?
Mrs. Starkweather.
Bensonhurst, you nearly frightened me to death.
My apologies. Might I ask what kind of pills you've just strewn about the room?
Oh, Digitalis, for my heart. I have a heart condition. Maybe I should take 2.
Digitalis?
Uh-huh.
Doesn't that speed up one's heart rate?
Oh, yes, my little heart's just pumping away.
Yes. Well, perhaps a single dosage would be sufficient. I assume an overdose could be fatal.
Oh, extremely fatal. Or am I being redundant? I suppose fatal's fatal, just like a dead is dead. Don't you agree?
Well, completely. One cannot be deader than someone else. Dead longer, perhaps, but that is the only comparison for the word that comes to mind. Might I inquire as to why you brought the pills into the living room?
Why I brought them in here? Oh, oh, yes, that's a very good question. Why did I bring them in here? Oh, yes, I meant to ask Miss Withers if she could get me any free samples with her medical connections, you know?
But it looks as if your bottle was full already.
Oh, yes, it was, but it never hurts to plan ahead. I suppose I should pick them up.
Allow me to assist you.
Bensonhurst, can I ask you something?
Be my guest.
Why are you carrying a wrench?
A wrench?
Yes.
Well, I happen to remember Miss Withers mentioned she thought the valve on Mr. Starkweather's bedroom heater was a little loose, so I thought I would give it an extra turn or 2.
Oh, how mechanical of you! We wouldn't want any of that gas escaping into his room, now would we?
Well, naturally not, but first things first, shall we?
Oh, yes. I feel like a pigeon pecking popcorn.
You missed one there.
Where?
Beside your left kneecap. Left kneecap.
Oh, yes, I got it. They just rolled everywhere.
Round objects tend to do that, madam.
Nurse Withers!
Oh, Mrs. Starkweather.
What are you doing on the floor with Bensonhurst? Oh, picking up my pills. I dropped my digital. So please watch where you put your feet, my dear, both of them.
I assume Mr. Starkweather has required an injection? Is there a problem?
Nothing I can't handle. His lungs seem to be somewhat congested, so I took him from his bed and sat back in his wheelchair. He could breathe easier in upright position. Then I gave him injection of steroids to help open his bronchial passages.
Oh, my, where would Uncle Simon be without you?
Dead. Without my help, your uncle's heart would have stopped beating long ago.
Oh, speaking of which, wasn't there something you wanted to ask Miss Withers, madam?
Was there?
The digitalis.
Oh, yes, Miss Withers. I was wondering if you have any manufacturer samples of digitalis that you don't need. I have a heart condition. I like to keep a supply handy.
I can see why you would. Yours tend to run out, don't they? I'm sorry, Mrs. Starkweather, but I'm fresh out of spare drugs. Your uncle requires every pill he's got to keep him going.
Oh, well, I guess we'd better gather up all of mine. And would you help us, my dear?
I suppose.
Is this a private game, or can anybody play?
Mr. Davis, we're picking up spilled pills.
Oh, I thought you were holding a tiny little marble tournament. I'll pass.
Oh, let me give you these, Mrs. Starkweather. I really must return to my duties.
And here are mine.
Oh, Miss Withers, how's the boss?
Bossy. He sent me for a fresh pink pitcher of drinking water. If I'm not back in the mail, start ringing his handbell for me. See what I mean?
I gather he rings for you a lot.
Incessantly. When he stops ringing that bell, I know he's hit the bucket. Excuse me.
Spoken like a true member of the medical profession. What's with the wrench, Bensonhurst? Got some kind of problem I can give you a hand with?
Thank you, sir, but no, it will wait. I too shall excuse myself.
Well.
Oh, you're up kind of late, Mrs. Starkweather.
Oh, yes, I couldn't sleep, but what about you, Mr. Davis?
Oh, me. I'm a real night owl. Besides, I was hoping young Simon Starkweather would show up. I haven't met him yet.
Oh, Simon's a sweet boy. I do hope he's all right with the storm at all.
He might have pulled off the road to let it pass. It's starting to cloud over again. We might be in for another deluge.
Oh, dear, I hope not. I believe I'll go back up to my room and lie down.
Good night again, Mrs. Starkweather.
Good night.
cigarettes. Coming, Mr. Starkweather. Oh, you're still here.
Yes, just keeping an eye on things.
I see. Well, my patient.
You're up too, Mr. Davis?
Yes, and I'm not the only one. There seems to be more traffic passing through Starkweather Mansion than goes down the interstate at rush hour.
I know what you mean. I've been hearing footsteps go past my bedroom door all evening. Not surprised, though. I mean, we could have guessed Mr. Starkweather's announcement would have given his heirs a sleepless night or two.
Between us, Miss Van Zandt, this whole cloning business, how do you feel about it?
I'm a lawyer, Mr. Davis. I'm paid to think, not to feel. Can Mr. Starkweather be cloned? Definitely. There's no question the technology exists. Should he be cloned? Well, let's just say I wouldn't be the first one to challenge nature by creating another Lois Van Zandt.
Me too. I'm a simple guy. I've got enough to deal with in one lifetime. The sooner we get the signing over with and I can get back to the real world, the better.
Well, you're in luck because the new will is finished and he can sign it first thing in the morning.
The old boy's still awake. That nurse was in here a minute ago. I heard him ringing his bell for her.
Really? Well, in that case, there's no reason he can't sign it now.
That's what I was thinking. The people in this house are as tense as a bunch of long-tailed cats in a room full of rocking chairs. I know I'll feel better once the boss's plan is done deal.
I'll go up to my room and get the new will. Why don't you let Mr. Starkweather know? What in the world?
The circuit breaker must have tripped.
But the storm passed hours ago.
I know. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. I'll find Bensonhurst and have him show me where the main breaker is.
Okay, good. I'll let Mr. Starkweather know we're taking care of it.
Tools of the trade.
It's all right, Mr. Starkweather.
Hello? Is anybody in here? Mrs. Trent Bensonhurst? Anybody?
Kathy, it's me, Lois, but I think there's something wrong with Mr. Starkweather. I don't know where that nurse is.
Oh, no, he hasn't signed the will yet, has he?
Oh, no, but you know what? It's fine. Perhaps he just fainted. We just need some light. Mr. Davis is trying to get it back on. It should be...
Mr. Starkweather! Oh, what happened? Someone struck me.
It's Mr. Starkweather! Help him!
Jiminy Crickets! What's going on?
I heard a scream.
He's dead. Someone put the blood pressure cuff on his neck and pumped the pressure up to the maximum. 300 milliliters of mercury. Mr. Stark has been strangled to death.
Poor Mr. Starkweather. Who could have done such a thing?
Oh, give me a break. I see you and nearly everyone else in this room are right up there on the top 10 list. Hold it down. Let me check the body.
Those drops on his robe, is it blood?
I'm not sure.
What else could it be?
I'll handle it. I'm the detective, remember? What can you tell us, Miss Withers?
After I took Mr. Starkweather the pitcher of water and made sure he was breathing all right, I went to my room, lay across my bed. A few moments later, the lights went out.
No, notice that too. The lights did go out.
Shut your cousin-kissing mouth.
Mr. Starkweather started ringing his handbell for me. I was lighting a candle when someone struck me with a heavy object, and I must have blacked out. And when I came to, the lights were on, and...
I can take it from there.
You seem to be in charge, Mr. Davis. What do we do now?
We keep trying the phones until we can get through to the cops. If the lines aren't up by morning, someone will have to drive into town and report. There's been a murder at Starkweather Mansion.
Murder.
Maybe the old man did himself in.
Are you serious? You really think?
Or maybe not. Young Mr. Simon, you made it. And boy, do we have a surprise for you.
Wow, wasn't that the most diabolical murder you ever seen? Oh, don't you just love the way Mr. Eichen's mind works? It's no wonder he went bonkers. Now remember, the first thing you guys need to do during intermission is grab the ballot from your program and check which character you think murdered Mr. Simon Starkweather. The ushers will be circulating the lobby and taking them in here as well in case any of you don't have to go for a drink of water or something. Well, see you in 15 minutes. Wait! Turn the lights back up! Oh my. Sorry about that, folks. I was making sure the cast knows what they'll be doing once they figure out who will be the killer at this performance based on the counted ballots. There are certain things that Mr. Eichen wanted to include in the second act once he made up his mind who would be the killer. You know, their lines or actions that are clues to the person's identity. The cast will act these into the show. I wanted to let you guys know so you can continue to play armchair detective and guess the culprit's identity. Well, I guess that's it for now. Relax and enjoy the conclusion of Murders in the Air. Can't see.
Dead? I can't believe Grandfather's dead.
Well, he is, Cousin Simon. He's the deadest person I ever saw.
Oh, funny you should say that. Vincent Hurst and I were discussing the degrees of dead earlier.
Mother, please.
And he was murdered?
There's no doubt about it. You saw the body.
Poor Grandfather. If I got here sooner, maybe...
How do we know you didn't get here sooner?
What?
For all we know, you could have arrived hours ago, parked your car at a site, slipped into the house, killed the lights moments before you killed Simon Starkweather.
That's ridiculous. Why would I kill him?
I'd say a third of a $50 billion fortune is a pretty good reason to knock somebody off if Mr. Starkweather had signed that new will.
But I didn't know about the new will. I wasn't here when Grandfather revealed that crazy cloning scheme you told me about.
It would have been easy enough to hide outside the French doors and eavesdrop on the conversation.
Why would I hide? I was expected here. I told you what happened.
Tell me again.
All right. I had to creep at a snail's pace on that long country road from town. Rain was lashing the windshield so hard I could barely see. The wind was snapping branches off the trees and flinging them against the car. It was like driving through a hurricane. When I got to the wooden bridge that spans the stream that flows around the sea, I had to stop. The stream had turned into a raging river and torn the bridge to pieces. I remembered a place, about a mile from there, where a tree had fallen across the stream years ago. I used to play on it as a kid. I found the dead tree and managed to walk across it, even though the rising water levels covered the trunk of the tree. Apparently, I got here just after Grandfather was murdered.
Sounds like a good story. But it sounds rehearsed.
Not nearly enough. It's the truth, I swear it!
Maybe. But I'm still not crossing you off my suspect list.
Yes. Thank you. And just who else do you have on that list, Mr. Davis?
And everyone in this house except Miss Van Zandt and Miss Collins. They had a heck of a lot to gain if your grandfather had only lived a few more minutes. As it turns out, they're left out in the cold.
Especially me. Lois has other clients. Now I'm among the unemployed.
I'm sure once the estate is settled, we can arrange for you to be given a generous severance check.
Take it of your portion if you like. Mother and I will pass.
So will I. Nothing personal, of course.
Of course.
Mr. Davis, what do we do now?
Simon's story reminded me we could play some bridge.
The way I see it, we all sit tight until daybreak. Then you'll show me the way to your car. He'll drive me into town, and I'll report what I know to the police. We'll notify them that the bridge is out. My guess is the cops will fly in by helicopter. They'll need to get the body to the coroner's office, examine the crime scene, and take your statements. Once a homicide detective is assigned to this case, I'm out of here.
But you're a detective too. And you were right here when the murder occurred. You have a better chance of solving the murder than anybody else.
Sorry. Now that Mr. Starkweather's dead, I'm off the payroll. Once I give the big boys my statement, I'm finished. Finito. Hasta luego.
I'll hire you to stay. I won't have the money till I get my portion of inheritance, but if you're willing to wait...
You're on, kid. Yo, I figured you're good for the dough. Incidentally, that offer dropped you down to the bottom of my suspect list. Well, might as well start earning my salary.
How can we help, Mr. Davis?
First, I want to question everyone as to their whereabouts when Mr. Starkweather was murdered.
Establish everyone's alibis?
Yes. Also, I need to know anything all of you and the staff might have seen or heard during the last few hours that might help us discover the killer's identity.
Clues.
You got it. Clues, motives, alibis, that's what a detective has to work with. The motives in this case are obvious. The other elements aren't yet, but hopefully they will be by the time I'm finished.
That sounds good to me. Who do you want to start with, Mr. Davis?
Since you're paying the freight, call me Mike. How about you, Miss Thompson? Do you mind being first?
I'm awfully tired, Mr. Davis. But if I have to...
You don't have to, Paula. None of us do.
What do you mean, dear?
I mean, Davis isn't even a police officer. We don't have to give him time of day.
You're right, Jordan. But why would you refuse to cooperate unless you have something to hide?
Now look, Simon, don't start accusing me of murder unless you can prove it.
Simon has a point. Do you want me to tell the cops everyone cooperated except you?
Fine, I'll answer your dumb questions. But first I'm going to take Mother upstairs and have her lie down until you're ready for her. She's getting up in years and she needs her rest.
Oh, thank you very much, Jordan. I'm not a spring chicken anymore, but I'm not Miss Methuselah either.
Don't get excited, Mother. Are you okay? Do you need your digitalis?
Oh, no, but if I did, there's probably 1 or 2 pills still underneath the sofa. I had a little accident with my pill bottle.
Well, come on. You can call when you're ready for us.
And I assume you'll want to question everyone in private, so Kathy and I will retire to my room. I want to read over the old will since it will remain the official one.
Sure, Lois. Excuse us.
I'd like to stay. Since I wasn't here earlier, hearing everybody's statements might give me a better idea what happened tonight at Starkweather Mansion.
You're the boss now. I'm particularly interested in what happened between the time Mr. Starkweather announced he was changing his will and the time his body was discovered.
How long was that?
Several hours. Well, Miss Thompson, did you observe anything which occurred during that time frame that might help us?
Well, I was very disappointed by Great Uncle Simon's announcement, as you might well imagine. I mean, I can understand why you might want to clone Tom Cruise, but Great Uncle Simon? No offense, Cousin Simon, but your grandfather was not a very nice person. Anyway, I spent most of my time in my room, but I did come downstairs once on a little errand. I was outside the kitchen door when I heard Minerva and that cute little maid Nancy talking.
What's the matter with you, girl? Did you leave your mind in the other room? You haven't heard a word I've said.
I'm sorry, Minerva. I'm just confused.
About what? Has that loser Jordan been bothering me?
Jordan? I mean, Mr. Starkweather? What makes you think that?
When I walked in on the two of you in the living room, you were standing mighty close together. Real lovey-dovey like. What was he saying to you?
I think he wanted me to
do something you didn't want to do?
Yes, but it's not what you're thinking.
I'll bet. He better stay away from you. If that boy tries anything, I will cut him down to size.
Minerva, no. He's not interested in me.
I heard him with Miss Collins. I get the picture. When you lost your million, he lost interest in you, didn't he? He's following the money right to the Collins girl, isn't he?
He proposed to her, but she laughed at him.
Oh, good for her. Serves him right, the lazy...
Don't call him that.
Oh. You're hung up on him. Don't be a fool, Nancy. Jordan would just use you and toss you aside like he's done a dozen other girls I know of.
Maybe he's ready to settle down now. If Mr. Starkweather hadn't changed his will, Jordan would be free to...
Free to do what?
Nothing. If we're finished, I'd like to go to my room now.
Go on. Nancy,
Yes, ma'am?
lock your door.
Excuse me. That little scene in the foyer was a flashback. It showed a conversation Paula overheard before the murder. Other character stories, well, portions of them, will be shown in flashback too. A musical note. Will denote a flashback. Isn't that clever? Thank you for your response. I just wanted to make sure you guys got that. Carry on.
Damn it, England. You're really asking for it. Oh my God.
So tell me, Mrs. Strand, did you see or hear anything suspicious early tonight before Mr. Starkweather was murdered?
Suspicious. Well, I don't suppose you call toting a gun around the house suspicious, even though Mr. Starkweather wasn't shot to death.
A gun?
A gun.
Who has a gun?
Besides me.
Paula Thompson, that's who. And claims she's a regular Eddie Oakley. And mentioned how easy it would be for someone to burst through those French doors and kill Mr. Starkweather.
Did she now?
Ask her yourself.
Or anything else?
I did happen to overhear a rather odd conversation between Rufus and Mrs. Starkweather. I had gone upstairs to distribute the rest of my candles, which turned out to be very useful, as you know. I had turned onto the corridor, onto the west wing, when I saw Mrs. Starkweather at the far end.
Do I have enough? Oh dear.
Miss Starkweather.
Rufus, you nearly scared me out of a year's growth.
That's okay, ma'am. At our age, we do our drawing sideways, don't we?
I certainly hope not. What are you doing with that television set? It doesn't look like a portable.
It is now. I bought it for one of the guest rooms that ain't in use.
Whatever for?
Well, see, I ain't sleepy, so I thought I'd watch some TV, but the set in my room's all messed up. The color, I mean. Everybody on every dang blammin' channel's green. Cole Sprouse is green, Steve Harvey's green, SpongeBob is green, and I'm pretty sure that fellow's supposed to be yellow. It looks like every station is starring Kermit the Frog.
How disconcerting.
You can say that again, whatever it means. Are them breath mints? I wouldn't mind a few. I can still taste the kraut whenever served for supper.
Oh, these are no, Rufus, you doesn't have any of these. If you took any of these pills, they could kill you.
In that case, I'll pass. You better not leave them lying around, though. Someone could eat a bunch by accident and keel over dead.
That's entirely possible.
What would you put on their death certificate? Cause of death? Bad breath?
Shut your mouth. Oh, sorry. I'll be careful with them. I promise. I need these pills, you see. I need every one of them.
Rufus, had an axe in the house.
Yes, Master Simon. I had instructed him to chop some firewood earlier.
I'm surprised you trust him with an axe.
Personally, I wouldn't trust him with a butter knife. I was simply relaying Mr. Starkweather's instructions.
Was there anything else of interest you happened to notice?
Just one, sir. Early tonight I was coming from the kitchen when I noticed Master Jordan at the door to Mr. Starkweather's bedroom. The hall door, not that one. His behavior was somewhat furtive. I got the impression he was about to enter when the door opened and Miss Withers came out. It was apparent her unexpected appearance startled Master Jordan.
Well, what can little baby Jordan want now?
I was going to go check on Great Uncle Simon.
No need. That's what I'm paid to do.
Then, well, how is he?
Still breathing, if that's what you're still wondering about.
How much time do you think he has left, Miss Withers?
Let's just say you shouldn't start reading any long novels, or even a short story.
But you think he'll make it through the night?
I think Mr. Starkweather will keep his heart beating with sheer determination, long enough to sign that new will. That is what you want to know, isn't it?
Why, you misjudge me, Miss Withers.
Give it a break, Jordan. You would love to see him drop dead before daybreak just to nearly everyone else in this house.
Including you. $1 million is a fortune. A lot of people would kill for that much money.
That's a hint. Forget it. As Mr. Starkweather's nurse, I'd be the prime suspect if his death appeared to be anything but by natural causes.
Oh, suspecting and proving are two different things.
I'm going to forget you said that. Good night, Jordan.
Good night.
It's true. Jordan Starkweather did hint I was in a position to end his great-uncle's life in a way that appeared natural. I assume Bensonhurst also told you that I refused?
He did, but you could have changed your mind.
And they killed him with a blood pressure cuff? That would have been foolish, hardly would caught by natural causes.
I agree. The manner by which she was murdered makes no sense at all, whoever did it.
It's as if the killer's flaunting the deed in our faces.
And why would they do that?
That's a good question. Tell me, Miss Withers, if you had to pick a likely suspect to be our murderer, who would it be?
Off the record? That Thompson girl, his great niece, is too goody-goody for my taste. Oh, those Southern girls could pour on the charm when they want to, but Scar O'Hara is pretty ruthless when you get down to it.
We've been told Cousin Paula has a gun.
See what I mean? I dare say she and Jordan both were desperate to get their hands on Mr. Starkweather's billions. I overheard them talking earlier this evening. It was shortly after Miss Van Zant's announcement about the new will. They didn't notice me in the corridor.
Well, what are we going to do?
Do what can we do? It's out of our hands.
Don't be such a wimp, Cousin Jordan. That money rightfully belongs to us. There's got to be a way to get it back.
I know. Maybe we could break the will if you have Great Uncle Simon declared insane.
I thought of that, but it won't work. If cloning was just a wild theory, maybe we could, but it isn't. It's been done. Great Uncle Simon's plan to be the first person to clone himself might be bizarre, but it isn't insane. We'd lose the case.
We'd probably spend this joke of an inheritance on the lawyers.
Like that. Miss Van Zant.
What is it? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking, if you can't beat him, join him.
Huh?
I just thought of a new way to get Miss Van Zant to put me on her team.
What is it?
Fend for yourself, Jordan. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go talk to that lawyer.
If you can't beat him. Oh, yeah. Now, where would Kathy be?
It's true. Jordan did suggest we get married. It wasn't what you'd call a romantic proposal. It was more a business proposition.
You were going to have access to billions. What did Jordan have to offer you?
Himself, I guess.
Oh.
In my opinion, that gold digger isn't worth 2 cents.
Then you did turn him down.
Jordan is attractive in a smarmy sort of way, but any woman who married him would be a fool. Believe me, Mike, I'm no fool.
I knew that from the time we started working together.
You were smart enough to volunteer to carry my grandfather's weird clone.
Look, Simon, once Mr. Starkweather decided to clone himself, nothing was going to change that. He would have found a surrogate mother someplace, so it might as well have been me.
I understand. I just think the whole idea is, creepy.
You're a lot nicer about it than the other heirs were.
For example?
Paula, for one. She hadn't given up hope to getting her hands on Mr. Starkweather's money.
How do you know?
I was in Lois's room with her when Paula knocked on the door. She asked Lois if she could go to the corridor where she could speak to her in private. Lois went out with her. She didn't close the door entirely, so I couldn't help but overhear the conversation.
Kathy and I are very busy, Miss Thompson.
Are you preparing that new will?
Sure, that's what we were doing.
Yeah. Miss Van Zandt, you're a lawyer. You could lose your license to practice, couldn't you, if...
The process will be performed in Belgium, as we told you. Our laws don't apply there.
What about ethics? Haven't lawyers been disbarred for behavior that was unethical, if not illegal?
What's your point?
I want in on the deal. You could pay me from that trust fund to be the baby's nanny or whatever. I don't care what you name for the position. And if you refuse, I shall be forced to report you to the Bar Association.
Isn't that what you call it?
It is. Let me give you a little free legal advice, Miss Thompson. In the first place, if you make any accusations against me before the cloning procedure is completed successfully, I will sue you for the $50,000 you're due to receive and everything you have. And you know the best part? I'll get it. And in the second place, after the baby's along the way, I plan to close down my office. I shall devote all of my time to Kathy and little Simon's care. And at that point, it shouldn't matter to me in the least if I should be disbarred. You don't have to be a lawyer to administer an estate. Anyone can do it. So you see, young lady, your threats are meaningless! In fact, as an officer of the court, I should report your feeble attempt at extortion to the police. Save it! Take your silly southern self out of my sight, and I might be willing to forget it!
All right, I'll go. You lawyer, excuse me!
I found what's left of the Christmas candles I stored away. I thought it might be a good idea to pass them out in case of a power failure. I suggest you keep one and some matches nearby.
Thank you, Mrs. Trent.
You're welcome.
It's very thoughtful of you. Kathy's in my room. I'll take one for her as well.
Miss Thompson?
Oh, all right. I'm going to my room. There's something that I need to get.
What's the matter with her?
Let's just say she's a poor loser. Miss Thompson played her ace, and I trumped it, in a manner of speaking. I'll give this to Kathy.
If I remember correctly, when Kathy Collins saw Mr. Starkweather's body and screamed, you ran in the front door. What had you been doing outside, Rufus?
Was I outside? Yep, I guess it was. I remember now. I had borrowed a TV from one of the guest rooms because...
We heard. Why, Rufus?
You did? News sure travels fast around here.
All the actors on your set were green. Rufus?
Sure was. Looked like the Martians landed or something. Anyways, when I plugged in the new TV, the picture didn't come in too good. Everybody was fuzzy as a woolly worm. I went outside to try and turn the antenna around.
On the roof?
Well, it wouldn't do much good if I put it in the basement, would it? I was about to get the tall ladder out of the storage shed when I heard the gal holler bloody murder. Murder, anyways, even if it wasn't bloody.
Did you see or hear anything outside?
I saw an owl, and I heard a bunch of bullfrogs ribbit. Yeah.
No, Rufus, you bright little star.
Oh my God.
I meant human.
Oh, I saw Mr. Jordan out on the patio. Don't know what he was doing out there.
Earlier tonight, Rufus, did you hear anyone talking about the new will?
Who didn't? Minerva and old Bensonhurst didn't talk about much else. They was going on about it in the kitchen before Mr. Starkweather croaked.
What were they saying?
That ain't fair, that's what. That they had worked hard for Mr. Starkweather all these years and they should have got their millions. Me, I didn't care too much. I figured $50,000 would be enough to buy me a new TV with a real big screen. I guess now I might even get me two.
Bensonhurst and Minerva?
Oh, yeah. No, I ain't done. The more Minerva thought about it, the madder she got. And whoo, that woman's got a temper. I still got more lines. She was about ready to storm into Mr. Starkweather's room and give him a piece of her mind. Now you can play the damn cue.
You mustn't go in there, Minerva.
Who's gonna stop me?
Well, I shall if necessary.
You and what army?
I completely agree with you that we were wronged, but a confrontation is not the answer.
Oh, yeah? Then what is?
Have patience. Mr. Starkweather hasn't signed the new will yet. Perhaps he'll change his mind by the morning.
Oh, yeah, we should live so long.
No, Minerva. He should live so long.
Where is it?
Oh, sure. Take your time.
Thank you.
So, what were you doing outside about the time of the murder, Mr. Starkweather?
I was just getting a breath of fresh air. Is there anything wrong with that?
Not if you remained outside.
What do you mean?
When I made a cursory examination of the crime scene, I noticed that Miss Withers left the window raised a couple of inches to let in some of that fresh air. Anyone could have climbed in and...
Are you accusing me of killing Great Uncle Simon?
Calm down, Mr. Starkweather. I'm not accusing anybody yet.
Besides, Cousin Jordan, it seems like trying to con someone else into doing your bidding is more your style.
Who told you that?
I'll ask the questions if you don't mind. I repeat, what were you doing outside?
If you must know. Kathy and I had a disagreement, and I blew up. So I went outside to cool off. Or have you already heard about that, Mr. Davis?
I question, you answer, remember? Let me ask you this. If you didn't kill Simon Starkweather, who do you think did?
Look, I'm not saying she did it. But have you talked to that maid, Nancy?
Why her?
The girl has a crush on me. I flirt with the ladies a lot. But I did nothing to lead her on. Sit down. I knew she was upset about the new will. Not just that she would lose her money, but that I would lose even more. Right?
Sure.
Yeah. I strolled around the house and I was outside the kitchen door when I heard Nancy talking to Miss Withers.
Is there something I can do for you, Miss Withers?
I needed to put fresh water by Mr. Starkweather's bedside. I got it.
That poor man. When he had the attack and lost his breath in the living room, I realized what you meant before when you said the slightest shock to prove to be, well, fatal.
Exactly.
The slightest shock. His bell.
I must go.
Yes. We wouldn't want anything to happen to him, would we? I was shocked when I heard Mr. Starkweather had included me in his will. I didn't think he even noticed me.
Then you must have received two surprises. To hear you inherit $1 million, then immediately discover it was being taken away.
3 surprises, actually. Now you're wealthy again.
Oh, Mr. Starkweather, I was thrilled to be told your grandfather was leaving me even $50,000. With that, I could go to college like you and get a good education.
Now you can do anything you want to do, Nancy. What do you want to do?
I don't know. I haven't been thinking about myself much.
Who has been on your mind, Nancy? Jordan Starkweather, perhaps? You're rather fond of him, aren't you?
Who told you that?
Cousin Jordan himself, for one. He implied that you might have even been willing to kill for him.
He what?
How could he say such a
Please,
thing?
please don't. Oh. Not now. I'm miserable, it says.
I'm sorry to hurt you, Nancy. But now you see what Jordan's really like. He's only out for himself, and he'll trample anyone who gets in his way.
I guess I knew that. Minerva tried to warn me. I even heard him propose to Miss Collins. She turned him down, then later laughed about it when she told her friend Mrs. Van Sant. I was taking fresh towels to the guest room when I heard them talking. You think Jordan is cold-hearted, but Miss Collins is just as bad as he is.
Can you believe it? Those soulful gazes might work on some innocent young thing like that maid Nancy, but he learned quick enough that I'm no pushover.
Oh, I wish I'd been there to see it. It's about time Jordan met his match. Oh, and I could tell Nancy about some of the maids that have worked here before her. His Playboy days will be over soon enough, though.
What do you mean?
I mean, up until now, Mr. Starkweather's given Jordan, as well as Paula and Simon, generous allowances. After that new will is signed, those $50,000 requests will be the last they get of the Starkweather fortune. They'll have to learn what it's like to work for a living.
Simon's almost out of school. He'll do just fine, but the others? Can you imagine Paula behind the desk of a car rental agency?
Or Jordan driving the cars out of lots for customers.
And what will Fiona do? Sell Mary Kay?
Can I get you anything, Cousin Fiona? A glass of water?
Oh, no, dear, I'm fine. Mr. Davis, I hope you know that my precious Jordan couldn't have done... Oh, dear, what was done to Uncle Simon? He was putting me in my room all evening.
You know that can't be true, Mrs. Starkweather. Your son told us himself he went outside. And I saw you in here earlier with Bensonhurst and Miss Withers.
Ah, yes, maybe it was last night that he sat with me.
Maybe it was.
Now I know why Jessica Fletcher never believed the suspects on the murder she wrote. It's so easy to get confused.
Concentrate on tonight, Mrs. Starkweather. Do you recall seeing anything suspicious?
Suspicious? Well, I saw Uncle Simon with that horrible thing around his neck. I'd call that suspicious.
Mike means before that, Cousin Fiona.
Oh, before? Well, I don't know if this is the sort of thing that you mean, but...
Yes.
It was right after we'd all been informed about the new will and we'd all gone upstairs. I was walking past that secretary's door when I heard her and the housekeeper inside. They were being quite loud, so I couldn't help but overhear.
What are you doing in my room, Mrs. Trent?
I was checking all the guest rooms to make sure there are extra blankets in each. I suppose you're very pleased with yourself, Miss Collins.
Why do you say that?
It all worked out just as you planned.
I don't know what you mean.
I think you do. I understand now why you brought all those news magazines in from town and left them lying around where Mr. Starkweather would see them. You've done it for months.
And what magazines?
Those news magazines and scientific journals. I've seen them, and they all have one thing in common. Articles about cloning. And I didn't realize it until tonight. But now it's obvious what you were planning to do. You planted the idea in Mr. Starkweather's head to clone himself.
And what if I did? There are no laws against sharing ideas, are there?
I think your lawyer friend would say no. Since you're both in this together, that doesn't mean it's right. And I think what you're planning to do is hideous.
To be perfectly frank, I don't care what you think.
Get out! No! Starting to give orders already, are you? Fine, I'll leave. But remember one thing, young woman, you're not the queen bee yet, and you won't be until Mr. Starkweather's name is on the dotted line. Assuming that ever happens.
Kathy told me about Mrs. Trent's accusations that she engineered the cloning business, possibly with my help. Apparently, Mrs. Starkweather reported their conversation rather accurately, which is somewhat of a surprise.
Is it true, though? You and Kathy gave grandfather the idea to clone himself.
I don't really think that's relevant to the case at hand, Simon. Besides, even if we did, we didn't break any laws. Don't you agree, Mr. Davis?
No laws that I can think of.
Exactly. Then shouldn't we be focusing on the law that was broken? I'm referring to murder, of course.
You're right, as usual, Miss Van Zandt. Can you volunteer any information that might help us?
Well, I will tell you this. Earlier this evening, I came down to the kitchen to ask Minerva for a pot of coffee. It was apparent that Kathy and I were going to be working late, and I thought the caffeine might help us stay awake. Minerva wasn't there, but Rufus was. I overheard him talking to Mrs. Starkweather, and their conversation was rather peculiar.
Rufus, what are you doing with that axe?
I brought it in from the woodpile to dry it off good. Sharpen it up, too, want to see?
Goodness, no. Put it away, please.
Maybe I better. Before it hurts somebody, or even kills them.
It's a horrible thought.
Ain't it, though? I get those sometimes. Do you? I see you still got your poison pills.
The Digitalis isn't a poison, it's a stimulant. You just have to be careful not to take too many.
You had a lot more in the bottle when I saw you upstairs. Oh, I hope you haven't gotten overdosed. I think I can figure out how to do that mouth-to-mouth stuff.
If you bring those lips any closer, I will snatch the axe out of your hands and chop them off!
Just trying to help, Mrs. Starkweather.
Well, don't. There are some fates worse than death. I assure you, however, that I am fine. I spilled the pills earlier in the living room, and I wasn't able to find them all.
I hope Minerva don't find none. She fixes Mr. Starkweather's meals, and she's mighty mad at him right now.
What are you suggesting?
Oh, nothing. Was there something you needed in the kitchen?
Oh, yes, I came to see if Minerva had any of those delicious hors d'oeuvres.
I can look.
Never mind, I seem to have lost my appetite.
Mr. Starkweather's meals? What do you want to know about them?
Oh, shoot. Who did he dine with? And did he eat the same food as everyone else?
Same food. Mr. Starkweather was on a very restrict diet. Low salt, low fat. So I had to prepare his meals separately. Why do you want to know about the food? Do you think there's something wrong with my cooking?
Oh, no. Oh, you're a great cook, Minerva. The leg of lamb you served tonight was wonderful.
Very good. Yes, well, I've always been told I have terrific legs.
Good God. Forget it. God. You told me what I need to know. Changing the subject. Do you remember who was in the kitchen when the lights went out and the circuit breaker tripped. Before I got there, I mean.
The blackout?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. Let me think. I was in the pantry checking the supplies for breakfast. When it went dark, it took me a while to retrieve the candle Miss Trent gave me from my pockets and light it.
Minerva, Nancy, is everyone all right?
I'm here and I'm fine. I was out back when I saw the lights go out.
I was in my room and everything went dark. What happened?
The Benson nurse forgot to pay the light bill.
Keep that up and I'll forget to pay your wages.
What the heck is going on?
Apparently, the storm knocked out the electricity. My candles did come in handy, you see.
Hey, remind me to give you a gold star later.
Shut up.
Bensonhurst, can you get the electricity back on?
Well, you see, I'll have
That's
to...
exactly what I came to find out. Mr. Bensonhurst?
The circuit breaker's right over here.
I hope they hurry. I don't like the dark.
That quick enough for you? I'll get back to my chore.
Oh my... What did he come inside for? The idiot tracked water all over my clean floor.
Why, Mr. Starkweather doesn't fire him. I'll never know. Go.
Any luck?
It was there, all right. It should be enough to pinpoint our murderer. But I wish I had more. It could take weeks to get the results. If the will is probated and the killer gets his or her inheritance before then, they could disappear for good. You could buy a new identity easily enough for $1 million or more. There must be some way to nab the guilty party tonight.
I was hoping we'd learn more from questioning the suspects.
Me too. They were so busy trying to make each other look guilty, they didn't reveal much about themselves. Sometimes the slightest. Simon, move your feet.
What?
What? Yes, on the rug.
What?
Oh, yes. What they were doing was so insignificant I barely noticed at the time. Simon, I know who murdered your grandfather.
Who?
I'll tell everyone as soon as I gather the evidence. Quick, go tell Bensonhurst I need to see everybody in here immediately.
Of course.
Minerva sent me to see if you'd like a pot of coffee.
Never mind that. Go upstairs and tell everyone to get down here on a double.
Yes, sir.
I don't think the police chief will mind if I use sandwich baggies to gather evidence. I don't think he'll mind at all.
Please, everybody, this... Oh, why would you...
Calm down, everybody. Please take a seat.
It is very late, Mr. Davis. Or very early, depending on how you look at it. Nobody else is going to ask. I will. Why'd you call us at this hour?
It has been a long night, hasn't it? I'm sure you're all very tired. No, I am. But I felt you would rest easier knowing who murdered Simon Starkweather.
You mean you discovered he killed Grand Uncle Simon?
I'm pretty sure I have, which I'm going to show you in the next few minutes.
I'm amazed, Mike. How did you figure it out?
First, I had to find the answer to a question that bothered me from the beginning. It would have been so easy to make it appear that Mr. Starkweather died of natural causes. A suggestion Jordan Starkweather made to Miss Withers. For example, Mrs. Starkweather or her son could have given him some of her digitalis to trigger a heart attack. So could several others among you who were aware she had them and had left several on the floor of this room, no doubt when she spilled them earlier tonight. Mrs. Withers could have achieved the same results by injecting an air bubble into his bloodstream with a hypodermic needle. Again, any of you could have stolen a needle from her room and done the same thing. Also, it's highly probable that some of you considered frightening the old man to death. Miss Withers, with a needle, Minerva with a knife, Thompson with a gun, Rufus with his axe, Bensonhurst with his wrench. The possibilities are endless. Why then would the murderer choose to put a blood pressure cuff around the victim's neck and inflate it until he's strangled to death? The answer is so simple I feel foolish for not realizing sooner what must have really happened.
Well, might one ask what that is?
Obviously, when the cuff was put on him, Mr. Starkweather was already dead. Am I right, Miss Van Zandt?
You really are clever, Mr. Davis.
It had to have been you. We weren't here together when the lights went out. Mr. Starkweather began to ring his bell. I went to find Bensonhurst, and you went to check on Mr. Starkweather. His killer must have murdered the man and slipped into Miss Withers' room seconds before you found the body.
That's what I figured too.
But why would you put the cuff around his neck?
As our able detective here has surmised, the killer made it appear as if Mr. Starkweather had had a heart attack. Death seemed to be indeed due to natural causes. There was no doubt in my mind, however, that someone in this room had killed him. I knew that under the circumstances, the coroner would see no need to perform an autopsy, nor would the police conduct an investigation, and I was not just about to let my employer's murderer get away scot-free. So I saw the blood pressure cuff on the table, and I decided to put it around his dead body before wheeling him into this room.
And your plan would have worked. No one would have ever questioned the fact that he had been murdered.
So, young Simon hired Master Mr. Davis to find the killer.
Wish I had. That was very naughty of you, Miss Van Zandt. For a while, your little ploy distracted me from the main problem. Instead of focusing on who did it, I kept wondering why did I do it that way. Once I solved that piece of the puzzle, the rest came easier.
Well, I'm sorry, but if you identified the killer, then the ends seem to have justified the means.
I imagine the police will agree, and might even overlook the fact that you're guilty of tampering with evidence at the crime scene.
And if not, I'm on very good terms with the local judges.
Wait a minute. How do we know Miss Van Zandt didn't kill Great Uncle Simon herself?
No motive.
Oh. Yeah.
Don't keep us in suspense, Mike. Tell us who did kill Mr. Starkweather.
I'll do better than that. I'll show you. Bear with me.
What?
Stay seated. I imagine all of you still have the candles Mrs. Trent distributed early tonight to keep with you in case of a blackout. Take them out, please, and light them.
Oh, isn't this nice? Very Christmassy.
When I examined Mr. Starkweather's body, I found what I first thought were a few drops of blood. On closer inspection, they turned out to be a different substance entirely. I forgot about them for the moment. I didn't realize the significance of that gesture because the gesture was that one of you was scraping one thumbnail against the other. At the time, I took it as a nervous gesture. I guess it was nerves triggered by guilt, as it turned out. I didn't realize the significance until I recalled Minerva's testimony. She reminded me of those of you who gathered in the kitchen with candles when the lights went out. A few minutes ago, I noticed these on the floor by the sofa, and I had the link I needed to identify the murderer. Thin scrapings of red tallow. Tallow from the killer's thumbnail. Tallow that matched the red drops on Mr. Starkweather's body. Tallow from the red candle the killer was holding when he murdered Simon Starkweather. Tallow from the one red candle among you which you are holding, Rufus.
I don't have a red candle.
Wait, who has the candle?
Oh, Withers does.
I mean, Withers!
There might have been other red candles.
There aren't! I remember thinking when we took them down after Christmas, we'd have to buy some more red ones for next year.
Is this the only evidence you have to offer the police? This candle?
No, Withers. I have better proof than that. I just examined Mr. Starkweather's body. As I was moving about the room a few minutes ago, I glanced at everyone's hands. I noticed several very thin scratches on your wrist, made by Mr. Starkweather, no doubt, as he struggled for his life. I'll bet my reputation that these skin samples I was able to scrape from under his fingernails came from you. It will be easy enough to prove. I've met quite a few experts on DNA testing during the last 6 months.
Bravo, Mr. Davis.
Well, I don't suppose you consider cloning those scrapings and put the new me in prison, would you? I didn't think so. Well, Miss Van Zandt, I guess my biggest mistake was trying to cross a lawyer. I may have caused you to lose access to Miss Starkweather's billions, but you definitely got your revenge.
Why don't you tell us what happened?
I might as well. You figured out the main details anyway. I was furious with Mr. Starkweather for building up our hopes and then dashing him to the ground. I thought a man that cruel doesn't deserve to live. When I brought him his pitcher of water, he was sitting in his wheelchair where I'd left him, ringing that bell. I put the pitcher of water down, gripped the arms of the wheelchair, and leaned down right into his face. I told him what he was planning to do was monstrous. I told him he didn't deserve to live. I told him I was going to kill him. Then I reached for his throat. He was terrified. He wheeled backwards in his chair, slamming to the bedside table. The impact sent the ring lamp crashing to the floor and the pitcher of water right on top of it. When the water hit the lamp, it short-circuited and blew the circuit breaker.
So you didn't cause the blackout deliberately?
No! It nearly ruined everything! But I had the candle matches in my pocket. I managed to light a candle with one hand while I grabbed the oxygen mask off his chair with the other. I clamped the mask hard over his nose and mouth. He couldn't breathe, of course. He made a feeble attempt to fight back with one hand while he rang his bell with the other, but all he could manage was to make a few insignificant scratches on my wrist, as you notice. That, and caused me to feel his drops of candle wax on his robe. I'm not sure if he died of suffocation or a heart attack. It was all over in seconds. The old man wasn't able to do much, but I guess it was enough to pin his murder on me.
And then?
I put the mask back on his wheelchair and slipped through the connecting door to my room. I took a brass candlestick and struck myself in the head with it. Even the slightest cut will cause the scalp to bleed profusely, and I had to have an explanation as to why I didn't rush to him immediately when he rang his bell. I listened at the door, and after I heard Miss Van Zandt wheel him into this room, I staggered in behind her.
I'm sure you're shocked as everyone else when you saw the blood pressure cuff around Mr. Starkweather's neck.
I was, but what could I do? It was easy enough to guess what Miss Van Zandt had pulled. I would have loved to kill you too, for ruining everything. But I didn't dare try, of course. Until now!
Oh, that's mine, but I guess it's yours now.
At this point, I have anything to lose, do I? Don't anybody move!
Easy now. You don't want to do anything you might regret.
It's too late for that advice, Mr. Davis. Get up! You're coming with me!
Where would we go? The bridge is all washed out.
I know where the fallen tree is that Simon mentioned. Simon, throw your cards at the table right now! Get it.
You'll never get away.
I think I might. The phones are still out, and all your cars are still parked on this side of the stream. It would take you hours to walk to town and notify the police. I'll be long gone by then.
What about me?
I would commit the perfect murder. If you hadn't interfered, what do you think I'm going to do with you? Not a thing if I can help it! Oh!
Hold it right there!
Are you all right? It's fine! Oh my God! I can't believe you shot me!
Obviously. I always keep these with me. You never know when cuffs will come in handy. Let's have them.
Oh, God. Mike, remind me to pay your big bonus.
No problem. Well, you're going to spend a long, long time beyond bars. What do you have to say for yourself?
I feel faint. Has anyone seen my smelling salts?
Can we have our wonderful director right up here?
Oh my, this is too much. I know you guys didn't get me those. Thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you. Your guys' participation was great. Thank you so much.
Wait! Wait!
No.
Hold it, Kurt. Hold it. Wait, hold it.
I don't know who that is.
Hold it.
What?
It's
Sorry, folks. Better see what this is all about. Oh, my. Oh. It's from Mr. Eichen. It says he's just come from a drug-induced coma, and when he awoke, a fantastic solution to the play was crystal clear. Oh. This new ending is brilliant. Better than any of the possible solutions he came up with before. You guys simply have to see it. It'll take me a few moments to go over the changes with the cast, but I'm sure they can handle it. Because they were so great before. Oh, there seems to be a few clues that need to be added into the first act, so I guess we'll have to do the whole thing all over again.
No, please don't. No.
That's not all, folks.
Nani?
What
is
Listen.
Everyone, can we get our real director up here?
So I want to speak for the whole cast that I'll give you a second. I just want to speak. Okay. I think we're all really grateful that you chose all of us because we are like a family, and I don't think it could have been accomplished without your hard work and dedication to this cast, and we want to thank you. And guys, let's not forget, it's Frederick's birthday today. His 16th birthday, right? His 16th birthday. So can we all sing happy birthday for him? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Franklin. Happy birthday to you. Do you want to say anything?
Hardest working cast I've ever worked with, hands down. Thank you guys for putting up an amazing production. Thank you all for coming out tonight, and I hope you drive safely. Thank you for coming.
and one more once.